What's up and welcome back to the channel. We're going to pick up right where we left off with the first electrical wiring video right after I made a big mistake. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you want to know how we got to this point in the build, click the link at the top of the screen, watch part 1 of the electrical wiring video. And if not, and you're ready to go, enjoy this video. We're going to light this boat up. All right, it's 2 days later and I redid the panel. Want to see it? Here we go. This is the old jacked up panel. And this is the new one. All right. All right, so I guess everything happens for a reason. I did figure out what I did wrong. I put on the second coat before 48 hours. And I was supposed to wait 48 hours before putting a second coat on. And I didn't read the directions. So that's what I get. I saw it later and said, oh my gosh. How this spray paint works is you have to do your second coat within the first hour of the first coat or wait 48 hours. We're gonna get rid of that piece right there. Welcome in the brand new piece. And as I mentioned, I'm going horizontal this time. Look at it, just sliding off. Look at that. Oh my gosh, slick. I'm going horizontal with the fuse box this time. And I should have did it that way in the first place, but live and learn. So everything happened for a reason. It wasn't meant to be in the first place. You're gone. I've already made all my cuts, drilled my holes. My 2 main 8-gauge leads will be here and here, and the individual leads will come through both cutouts on both sides of the fuse box. Now, I did lose a couple days on that deal, but it's all good in the end. It's gonna be looking good and working perfectly. All right, enough of that. We gotta get to wiring all the electrical components. It's time, guys. Let's get it going. I think I'm gonna start with the nav lights. You've seen these before on my other build. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently on this boat. I will install the green and red on the front, but I'm also going to install a small strip of green and red on the sides of the boat as well. The main strip will be here and a secondary strip right on the side. Thanks to you guys, I got a lot of feedback when I did my boat about Coast Guard friendly lights and the right way to do it. The red and green needs to be visible from the sides of the boat as well. So I'm making adjustments. I'm gonna do an enhanced version on this boat. I may need to go back and do my boat too at some point and add the additional red and green to the side of the boat, side corners. In order to run the wires, I'm gonna need to make this hole a little bit bigger. I drilled out a small hole here so far, but that's still not big enough. So I'm gonna notch this out a bit more so that when I run my wire through, I'll be able to actually grab it and pull it through. So what I did was used a countersink drill bit. This is a 5/8 countersink drill bit. Drilled a pilot hole and drilled it out with this. Now the trick is getting it out from there. Good old fishing needle nose pliers. There we go. All right. All right, let's pull that out so we don't accidentally suck that back through. So in the end, all of this will be covered with decking, so you won't see this cut out. All you'll see is the wire going up. I think we got it. There we go. So we got the ground wire through. Hang it over the side. Now for the ground wire, I'm gonna run a bus bar over here and connect all my negative ground leads to one bus bar. That way I'm running one wire controlling all ground for the front of the boat. And for those of you that don't know, this is what the bus bar looks like. This is a 10 gang. I won't need all 10, but in reality, the 10 costs less than the 6 and the 4. So I figured get the 10. You could always add accessories later. So I'll be running one ground wire to the negative ground wire on the bus bar fuse box combo. You can go one of 2 ways for this. You can have a fuse box that only has a hot side, which on this one would be the bottom portion that's fused. I have the fuse side and the bus bar side as well. That's why this is called a combo, right? So what that allows me to do is run negative leads to this central location as well. That will be right here. If you didn't have the negative bus on the actual fuse box, you'd have to run your ground wire to wherever the battery is. It could be right here. It could be anywhere in the boat, which could make the wiring process more difficult. So I liked it this way. That way, this is one central place. I can run positive and negative leads into this right here. Your positive leads from all of your accessories go directly to your switch panel. Your negative leads from your accessories go to your bus bar. Reason being, this fuse block is getting power directly from the battery down here and a negative feed directly from the battery here. Grounding anything to this is like grounding it to the actual battery. You don't put your accessories directly onto here because those need to go directly to your switch panel. These are used for outgoing power. This outgoing power, I have 6 things. Power comes in and goes out. It goes out from each one of these 6 right here to the switch panel. The switch panel has an in power and an out. The in receives these leads, and out from the switch panel is where it goes directly to your accessories, okay? Anywhere on your boat. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, rewind it, play it again, all right? But I'm gonna keep talking about it because again, this is an area that I got a lot of questions from the first build. Once you get that concept down, everything is easy. There's nothing left to it but just to run your wires. It's a repetitive process. Take your time, get through it, do it right. Do it right one time. So when you finish doing a week's worth of wiring and you hit that switch, you want that thing to light up. So now we'll just repeat the process on the other side. I'll time warp through that. All right, I think that's gonna work. I think we'll be able to grab both of them at one time. Got them. All right, at this point, while I'm in the midst of doing this, I might as well run it for the deck lights as well. On this boat, I'm gonna have the deck lights running right down the side. I'm gonna have one long strip here, another long strip there for the front. I'll also have some more in the back, but we'll get to that later. So I'm not gonna show you that because you guys already see how I'm doing it. So I'm gonna skip that, get back to you when I'm done. Shazam! All right, I'm done. Got all 4 leads run through. 3 out of 4 was pretty easy. The last one, it got really tight in there, but I was able to get it through anyway. I didn't need to make the hole any bigger, thank God. I wanna keep that as small as possible. But right now I have the deck lights and the nav lights all run. So I don't have to run any more wires for the front of the boat right here. So I've got 4 leads here. I've got 4 leads on the other side. I'm good to go. From here, I'm gonna go ahead and install the actual lights. I do have to make my connections and cut them and solder it together, shrink wrap it, do all that stuff. As I mentioned, I am gonna be running nav lights on both the front and the sides. So I'm actually gonna cut this strip and use one strip. One strip will cover the front and the side of the boat. That's the plan, all right? So of course that means I have to solder my own wires onto here, and you guys know I hate soldering, but I'm gonna get better at it. But first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these 2 strips, the red and green, and get them all ready to be installed. So even though I'm doing 4 leads, I'll be connecting 2 of the nav leads into one, both on the positive and negative side. That's why I don't have 6 wires coming out here. I'm only going with 4 because I'll be joining in both the side and the front nav light lead to one here. So I'm going with a 3/16 inch bit, which should be the perfect size to get both those cables through. So that looks very good, very snug in there, right up against the gunnel rail. In the end, I'll drop some silicone along the edges of the light strip for extra protection and bonding. Once I do that, this thing really is very hard to come off. And I know that from personal experience, having to replace one of my LED strips on my boat. This is the green side. Everything is up under there, which is really good. The gunnel of the boat actually serves as a little protection so that you don't smash these lights running into the dock or loading the boat off the trailer or anything like that. So it's protected. I made the hole a little bit wider so that I can accommodate the 2 wires that are going to come from the side right here. Bring it around and push it through that same hole. I'll drop some silicone in this hole to protect the wires, to take some of the pressure off of the wire so it doesn't rub against the aluminum and eventually cut it, and also create a watertight seal. Same thing for over here on the red side. I had enough space right there to drop the other 2 wires through coming from the side. My soldering job failed, so I went ahead and just used leftover LED lights from my boat. Luckily for me, same exact lights I'm installing on this boat, so it actually works out a win-win. So the LEDs are a perfect match, and this thing is gonna shine up bright. This is the green side, and this is the red side right here. To back away from the boat, you don't even see them. So they're hidden really well. And at nighttime, it's just gonna shine up. We're at the rear of the boat now, about to do the rear nav lights. So I'm gonna place a strip about right here on both sides. I'll drill in straight and then angle it down because I need it to funnel down towards the bottom of the boat. The wire will be run down the boat. So if you guys can see, this comes out from behind this wall right here, nice and hidden. In the end, I'll funnel this all the way down behind the transom. Oh man, this is gonna be perfect. A lot easier than my boat. All the wires will be hidden. I'll have a side panel right here that will hide all the wires I need to. All right, so we got one on. Now is a good time to figure out the location of my bus bar. This will be one of the first things I connect to it. The reason I'm putting a bus bar back here, and this will be a negative bus bar. I'll be putting a bus bar back here to house all of my negative ground wires for all of the different things I'm wiring back here. Just hook everything up here and run one wire going up to the front, all right? Way more efficient and just a smart way to go. I've got the bus bar installed right here, it's ready. From here, I'm gonna go ahead and start my wire connections, get my positive and negative wires attached to this. On the positive side, for the nav lights, I will connect the right positive nav light to the left and create one lead that will go through the conduit and connect to the switch panel. You guys have seen me do wiring quite a bit. If you haven't and you're new to me building boats and how I like to do my wiring, link at the top of the screen shows you step by step how to use the heat shrinking butt connectors as well as shrink tubing. So two of the main things I use, and you guys have seen me use this before, are heat shrinking butt connectors. I really like the Histronica brand. There are cheaper ones out there, but these are very sturdy, and when you melt them, they don't curve a whole lot. And for heat shrink tubing, I was buying these kits right here that had a variety of sizes, but as you can see, there are two sizes that you'll use a lot more than others. So instead of keep buying these kits, which I've done, I went and bought in bulk the two sizes that are used the most. And this is the 1/4 inch size, and that's some good information right there. It took me a while to figure out, well, what is the size that fits 14-inch gauge wire before I go buying a bunch of it, and it's 1/4 inch. So this is 20 feet of 1/4 inch shrink tubing. You can see these are long. I'll cut them to the exact size I need and keep it moving. I will link everything in the description below as always. I love finding new and improved products, and I'll continue to share that with all of you guys. This is the first time I'm using the Histronica kit. I started buying just the most used ones, which is the blue color for the 14 gauge wire. I did the math, and this one kit should do this whole boat. So these are self-soldering heat shrink butt connectors. So the solder is right there in the middle. It creates a seal and solders all in one. Now for the terminal side, I'm going with, and this is the first I'm using these. These are ring terminals, and they're also heat shrinking. So I can do a one-step process, crimping these down and making them watertight. All right, we've got all the nav lights hooked up, front and rear. Now it's time to get onto the deck lights. Got some really good bright lights, and they're pretty affordable. Everything will be linked below as always. We're going with red deck lights, one on each side for the front and two smaller strips at the rear of the boat. All of this will be connected to a dimmer switch. Here's a switch right here. Allows you to turn it on and off, dim it high, keep it high, low, however you want it. Very good switch. This switch is a little pricey. I think it's like 30 bucks, but it's made solid. And if you were to buy this from TH Marine, it's gonna be like 40, 45 bucks. I know there's a $10 to $15 price difference getting this dimmer switch on Amazon versus TH Marine, who sells the same exact switch with a different name on it. So with that being said, the deck lights will be controlled on its own switch. It will not be a part of the switch panel that's controlling all the other LED lights. The leads on the LED strip are so short, when I go to push it through the hole, the butt connector and shrink tubing is gonna stick out through the hole. I don't know that that's gonna work out very well. I'm gonna go ahead and extend these wires. I believe this is 22 gauge. I do have some of that same gauge wire right here, fortunately, and I think I have enough to do both sides like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and extend it. Some of the butt connector and shrink tubing will still show, but at least this is much smaller presentation. than a 14 gauge one sticking through. So not the ideal situation, but that's what we got to work with. We're going to make it happen. You can see the solder melting there. That is perfect. So we got the extensions on here. Again, it's always good to just test your connections as you go, because if you made any mistakes and need to fix it, you want to try to fix it before it gets installed in the boat. Everything still works. Now we get the connection to the boat. Made our final connection for the left front side. This extension right here is good, and then the main connection that will hit the switch panel is good. Got to get these wires, all of these wires in here. Come on, baby. There you go. This one, get the red right behind it. Just try to push it in there. Don't really want to pull on it too hard. So underneath this deck is a lot of foam, and that can make it really difficult to get these wires through here. I mean, I can already feel the resistance. There we go. Oh, there we go. All right, it just loosened up. Excellent. Whew. All right, gonna repeat the process for the other side. Once I get the other side set up, I will connect the positive lead from the right side of the boat to the left, and then create a single lead going to the switch panel. So I just want to share with you guys a product that I tried out myself for the first time and been using it around the boat areas, different areas that I need to clean the surface of any kind of oil, debris, grease, grime, anything. And with the aluminum, you always need a good clean surface when applying LED lights. And I've been going with this, and this is pretty good stuff. This stuff you can get anywhere. It's out Walmart, your car auto supply stores, it's at the hardware stores as well. And it smells good. I'm actually surprised. If you're looking for something affordable and works on just about anything, I mean, you can use this on your car, your barbecue grill, but it's working out great. I just cleaned underneath the gunwale rail for me to apply the LED lights. So I'm about to go ahead and do that now. So I'm just pulling away the backing as I'm going down the side of the boat. All right, that went on really easy. As always, I'm gonna touch this up around the borders with silicone just to give it that extra strong bond. That's just a technique that I like to use. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but it's worked out for me on previous installations, and I'm gonna keep doing it. Just make sure you get clear silicone. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. All right. It is on there. All right, we got all of the front deck lights run, but I'm out of LEDs, so just put in an order for another strip that will cover both sides of the rear deck. All right, and while I wait on that, I'm gonna go ahead and install the courtesy lights. And one thing I like about this boat, the rear bench, it has an edge right here. I can use this dip right along here, you guys can see, to install the courtesy lights. That's a good thing, less work for me. I've already got the LED strip cut. All I need to do is place it and wire it. The courtesy light will be on its own switch independent of the deck lights. So I've got a almost 34-inch long strip. So this is gonna be a nice bright area. So I just cleaned off the surface. It's nice and dry. I'm gonna install the light right underneath this edge. Now it's not as flat as I thought it would be underneath. It has a slight curve. So I'm gonna try to find the best location possible to get this light to be flush on here. So that looks pretty good. Completely hidden. You can't even see the light strip at all. Yep. But it's under there. So I'm literally just gonna wire tie these wires onto the back side of this conduit, which is gonna work out perfectly. This should be a much simpler process because I have access to everything I need. I will run lights along this side, and when I get back underneath, I can easily just run it right down this seam right here and down bottom. So I have full access to everything I need right in here to make it happen. So I'm happy about that. I'll be able to run my wires right along underneath here. And I have my negative bus bar right here. I'll connect the ground wires there for both the right and left rear deck lights. We'll go into this negative bus and then tie my two positive leads together, making one positive lead to go up front. So I think you guys get the gist of how I like to do it. I try to run the least amount of wires as possible. Places where I can consolidate wires, I will, joining them together and running single wires up through the conduit. Just makes a lot of sense instead of running unnecessary wires. Eventually all that stuff, everything you add to a boat equates to weight and of course time to mod. This light strip will start way in the back and come on out till about right here. So this entire back deck will be lit up and this will have a nice glow from underneath this little corner right here. This is gonna look nice. All right guys, so that's a really good bird's eye view of the light in place. It's in there really well. Can't be more satisfied with that. Always like to give a little test before I move on to the other side, just to make sure it works. One thing I'll need to do on this side of the boat is extend these wires first before I connect them to the wiring coming from the right side of the boat. Again, I'm connecting the two positive leads, the one from the right side to the left side, and then running one single wire up to the switch panel. I need to extend the wires coming off of the LED strip because once I put the strip in, the wire is so short it barely hangs down, and I need the connection I'm going to make to the two strips will be on this side of the bench. So I'll add a leader on here, maybe 12 inches or so, and what I'm going to do is reduce the size. All of the electrical wiring on the boat is, majority of it is done with 14 gauge wire. But for a lead like this, I'm gonna go with 18 gauge wire, which helps me out when making a connection to a 22 gauge wire. So this wire is like really, really small. Specifically, it helps me out because now I'll be able to go down to a size 22 through 18 gauge butt connector. A lot of the wiring is 14 gauge and you're trying to connect to a 22 gauge wire. So a big difference in thickness. When you go with this 14 gauge butt connector, which works perfectly for the 14 gauge wire, when you're shrinking down onto 22 gauge, it can be difficult. So I think you guys get the idea here. Instead of connecting directly to 14 gauge, I'm gonna go from 22 gauge to 18. So this will allow me to do something like this. So I'll push this on there and then this goes on here a lot easier and shrinks down a lot easier. There's less shrinking that's needed. So just sharing that with you. And the reason I'm using 14 gauge, which I typically do anyway, is for your wiring on your boat, you want your gauge thickness to be thick enough to handle the load you're putting through it. And if your gauge is too thin, your wires can heat up. 22 gauge slides in and my 18 gauge slides in as well. This is where I connect the right LED to the left LED. And then I'll be connecting it to this 14 gauge wire right here. That'll be my single lead from the rear deck lights to the front switch panel. Run this through the conduit. So similarly, how I joined up the front two leads together and made one lead, both individual leads from the front and the rear will join together, and then I will form one single lead to the switch panel. There we go. So I know this stuff looks like a hot mess right now. Just wanted to give you a shot of the negative bus bar that I have behind the rear bench. And as I mentioned, I have this in here so that all my negative leads can go here. And then I run one negative lead, which is this, to the front of the boat. This negative lead will go to the fuse box bus bar combo. So right now I've got left nav, rear nav right here. I've got right rear nav on this side. Next, I'll connect my 2 negative leads for the rear deck lights to the bus bar as well. So the only other thing I have left back here to wire up will be the GoPro nav light pole mount. That'll go right here. I'm gonna do that near the end when I'm working on the actual decking, of course, because that's what it'll be mounted to, is the decking, the rear decking. So I got one more thing to put into that bus bar as of right now. The rest will be cable management. I'll have to get all this cleaned up. I started to zip tie some of the wires over there, so that stuff is starting to come together, believe it or not. I need to get the onboard charger mounted on a panel over here. All nav lights are in, rear nav lights, rear deck lights all done. All right, so what I've done so far is just connect the front and rear LED lights right here into one lead, and this one lead goes to the switch panel. I haven't installed the switch panel yet. That's coming very soon. And all I want to do now is just run a quick test. Shall we? I've already got all the negative leads running to the bus bar that's connected to this fuse block right here. So all I have to do is connect this and the lights should come on for the deck. Oh, yep, there it is. There it is. All right, can I just stick it in there and it stays on? Let's see. I'm just hot wiring this. I don't have the switch panel in place yet. Don't move. All right, there we go. All right, front lit up, rear lit up. Man, hey, let's turn some lights off. Get some lights off. Ah, there you go. That's a much better feel right there. I think I'm digging this red. Yeah, especially for night fishing. I think I'm digging this red. Yeah, that's the front. There's the rear. Man, that's gonna be hot. Yeah, so that feels really good. All the wiring is done. I tested out throughout the process, so when I go to do this final test, I expect it to work, but of course anything can happen. Let's do the courtesy lights too while we're at it. Don't mind that this is a black cord. I just extended the red. That has a spade terminal connector on it, and I can't connect that here, so there we go. Courtesy light is on. All right, jam that in there, don't move. That's on nice and bright, coming together nice. I love how this looks. That's hot. So at night, if you don't want to run the deck lights, the courtesy lights will be on a separate switch. Well, when you're moving from point A to point B or whatever you're doing, maybe you're just setting up baits before you even hit the water. That light's gonna be awesome. What are we missing? Got my nav lead right here. I'm just jerry rigging it. I got this spade connector, but I can't connect that to the fuse box. So, all right, let's get you in here. I can already see it lighting up. All right, got that in there. Don't move. Let's go to the rear. And we've got our rear LED lights up. Let's shut off this light too. All right, just cut off all the lights in the garage. Yeah, man, this is a crazy looking boat, man. I love it. Again, we're gonna have a pole mounted nav light on the deck that is a pole. So I know people want to say, oh, you can't have those strips. They're not Coast Guard friendly or Coast Guard approved, where we have a solution for that. And you can see the green up front. And this was an improvement. This is an upgrade from what I did on the last build, where before I only had a strip on the front. Upgraded for this build and put a small strip on the side. It's all on the same lead. So just did a little customization, a little upgrade. And I have markers all around the boat. Look at that. All right, and guess what? We're not done. Got more lights to put in. The hatch lights aren't even in. And when that goes in, man, this thing is gonna be like a fireworks show. And what a show this is turning out to be. Next up will be the last video in the electrical wiring series. I'll be installing hatch lights, the onboard charger, customizing the switch panel, so stick around for that, and also getting the hatch light LEDs installed. If you enjoyed the video, leave us a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us on IG and Facebook. As always, guys, we'll see you in the next video.